So if I'm longing for my soulmate and I'm not meeting her or him, I am obviously not being sincere. And if I'm not being sincere, I need to address the reasons why. And every single time, it will relate to pain that I don't want to feel relating to something that happened in my past that I need to address, that I need to be sincere about. So just be very, very careful of having a longing in one direction while at the same time denying a whole series of emotions that would help you in that direction. Because that's not a sincere place. That's a hypocritical place, and that's going to cause your own stagnation. Because in the end, you will not get closer to God like that, or closer to your soulmate, or closer to yourself. The beauty of this growth towards God is that you always get closer towards yourself. Always. Which also means you always get closer to the other half of yourself. Always. If you're hypocritical, or you try to fool yourself, or you try to avoid pain in the process, then it's not going to happen. And what I find is the majority of people say they have a longing for their soulmate, but the reality is they don't have a longing for their soulmate at all. They are needy. Right? And neediness is not a longing. You know what neediness is? Neediness is a desire to have your addictions met. And that is not loving. When we truly have a longing for our soulmate, we will be desirous of giving the gift of ourselves to them. Right? We will not be in a needy place for getting anything back from them. Right? And I find the majority of people who say they have a longing for their soulmate do not have a longing for their soulmate, and instead they are needy. I personally went through exactly the same experience for 9 years. It took me to work through my neediness for my soulmate. Once I worked through my neediness for my soulmate, lo and behold, my soulmate enters my life.
Are you unified with your soulmate?
Sorry?
Are you unified with your soulmate?
No. Well, not on the earth again, no.
No?
No.
Not yet?
No. Definitely not. Are we, babe?
Sorry.
Just going back to the soul union state.
Yep.
Just pinged a bit of an idea. I think you've said it. In the spirit world, you drop the spirit body away. But if you go in a soul union state here in the physical realm, are the physical bodies actually going to come together? And I don't know. I just started going.
No, remember your physical bodies, both of them, and hers, in your case, yes, both of them, are just bodies. They're not the real you. The real you is this, the soul that you are, or the half of the soul that you are. Does that make sense? That's the real you, this part here. These are just sort of robotic designs God has made for you to express yourself. This one in the physical world, and this one in the spirit world. Does that make sense? So there is no need for the bodies to disappear for the two souls to come together. They are in a different dimension. There is no need for them to disappear. Once they come together, it'll be one soul controlling 4 bodies.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
A lot more sense here. I started going with crazy ideas, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's better.
And potentially this one soul, by the way, and something I haven't discussed with you yet, this one soul can even create even more bodies after that.
Stop, that's too much.
And in fact, you can create hundreds of thousands of bodies, depending on the power that you have, to express yourself in individual situations. But you can only do that when you get a certain condition of love in your relationship with God. Does that make sense?
Yeah, more sense than what I was thinking.
Yeah, so the reality is, when it comes to a soul union occurring on earth, what I expect to happen, even though it's not happened yet on earth, and what I expect to happen is that this one soul will control perfectly the 4 bodies that are associated with it, and then also can potentially create other bodies, physical or spiritual, in order to express itself if it so desired.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, that's one of the eternal benefits of having a relationship with God. Yeah.
So in order to do that, The only way is to be in total connection with God on this earth, to have your souls come together.
Well, the souls can come together without a total connection with God on the earth, but the likelihood of it happening is far more remote while I or the other half of me retain emotional injuries that block us from coming together. And this is the beauty of my relationship with God. The relationship with God exposes all of my unloving injuries that I have inside of myself, all the belief systems that I have inside of myself that are untrue. All of those things are exploded and destroyed through this process. And as a result, I'm left with just the pure, sincere, loving person that I was created to be. And as that occurs, then obviously the attraction between myself and the other half of myself will increase. So even if I only release half of those injuries, I have a much greater chance of meeting my soulmate than I had if I didn't release any of those injuries at all. So again, my suggestion is focus, number one, relationship with God. Number one priority. Because the beauty of putting it as a number one priority is all these other things will be added to you. You know, all of you at some point want to have a perfect relationship generally, right? That will be added to you if you put your relationship with God as your number one priority. Because in your relationship with God, remember, God hasn't got emotional damages with love. So God can teach you everything about love. God can then cause you to become more loving through that process, and then you get to the point where you're no longer unloving in any direction. And when you're in that state, it's impossible for the other half of yourself to not be attracted to you at some point. So the beauty of putting number one priority as the relationship with God is that it actually creates the ability to attract the other relationship that you're actually looking for. And what I feel a lot of people are doing is they're not putting God as the number one priority. What they do is they put their earth-based relationship, oftentimes, so looking for their soulmate is their number one priority. And then number two sometimes is God, but usually when soulmate's first, number two comes right down here somewhere. Right? God comes right down in the list. The problem with that is that your soulmate is most probably going to be injured in love. And if that is the case, you're going to meet your soulmate at some point. If you grow enough, you'll meet your soulmate. But because you're both injured in love and not growing towards somebody who isn't injured in love, you're going to act out these unloving things with each other. That's not going to be very good for your soulmate relationship. Does that make sense? But if you put God first, so if God's first and then yourself, which is you and the other half of yourself is second, at least, right? This is both halves. Now we're talking about of ourself. Remember, we are a half of our true self. When we do it like that, we're always going to learn from God, always going to grow towards God, no matter what our soulmate does. And as a result of that, we're always going to finish up attracting our soulmate, no matter what our soulmate does about it. We're always going to finish up attracting them. And the beauty of it too is that we will be in such a condition of love when we meet them that we'll be able to maintain the relationship without it causing us too much pain. Because if we can't do that, the relationship will cause us a lot of pain, and that'll cause us to want to split apart. And then we might finish up going like this with our soulmate, together, apart, for many, many years, causing each other a lot of pain because we're not growing towards God. It's the relationship with God that will refine us so much that we'll no longer have pain in any other relationship. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, it's interesting that we're focused on the soul, like you all lit up once we talked about the soulmate to a large degree, right? Now, what does that tell us? That tells us that most probably, for many of us, the priority system isn't that, but the priority system is more this. Right? And that is going to be a problem for us. Because at some point, we'll stagnate in our relationship with our soulmate if we're not continually progressing towards God. God will teach us everything we need to know, even about our own selves, even about the other half of ourselves. As we develop our relationship with God, our relationship with the other half of ourselves has the ability to grow and change. Everyone gets that? Yeah?